You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Juniors podcast brought to you by NBA 2K25. It's myself, Mooncey, alongside me, returning once again. This is what, a 3-day streak now?
Yep, four times this week.
4 times this week. The
Yep.
legendary, one and only Coach Brendan Suhr. Coach, how you doing?
Oh boy, what a game. I love these games. I love this. Three games, Pacers, Knicks.
Mm.
A total of 2 points separates them combined scores from the games. So, I mean, it's great basketball. After seeing what we saw last night when we were doing the show and try to make a 41 point game sound like it was really good, which we didn't try to. This was good. I mean, and I told you, um, I expected I expected New York to come in and play well. When they got down 20, I said, "Oh boy, you know."
Mm. But the New York Knicks ended up winning 106 to 100. And I have a theory that the Knicks just play much better basketball when they're losing, especially when they're losing by double digits. It feels like they need the adversity to step things up a gear.
The word in the States in 2025 by the whole population is resilience,
Mm,
right? And
hmm
and that's people start saying we have a team of great resilience, and they do. They compete. They show up. They play hard, and Tibbs and the staff adjusted the lineup, which we'll talk about, and we'll talk about that. But either way, they got to win. That's all that matters.
Yeah, they did bring Mitchell Robinson into the starting lineup in place for Josh Hart, as we spoke about last time we were here on the show. Um,
Hmm.
Something that baffles me about the Indiana Pacers. Now, I understand why teams don't want to do the hacker Mitchell Robinson strategy that the Celtics did and intentionally foul him. But if I'm the Pacers, every time he gets an offensive rebound or he gets the defender sealed, especially when it's a mismatch against a smaller defender, under the hoop and he's just going to rise up and dunk it, I will just foul him.
Yeah, Shepard in the second quarter, I believe, had an opportunity, and even Stan Van Gundy said, that you got to, we call it wrapping him up. Just
Hmm
put your arms around him. There's no such thing in the NBA as an intentional foul. There's flagrant fouls, but not intentional. You're allowed to do that. And they didn't do it. They let him lay the ball in. So big mistake. You're right. And those are things that really they've been coached. That's on their scouting report. That's something they talk about. A player that came in the game as a sub didn't execute. So, uh, but I understand this game is the most physical of all the series I've watched. This is like this is
It's Eastern
combat.
Conference basketball.
Yeah, and that was laughable in the last 19 seconds or whatever when they called a touch foul
Hmm
to put Tyrese Halliburton on the line. That was a joke, and I mean, it was just absurd that with everything that's been going on, and you call that foul. They made the two free throws, but it was a 4 point game at the time. But I think this is something that now we're seeing is that strategy, and we'll talk about the starting lineup and everything. But their move came with
Oh yeah,
different players. We'll
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
we'll,
that.
we'll get to that because in the first
Yeah.
quarter, Karl Anthony Towns struggled. He had 0 points. The Pacers were up just by 4 points after the first quarter. Then Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson both had three fouls early in the second. At the time, they were down by what, 13? And then Indiana went on an OKC type run, forcing turnovers, getting out and running as they do, flying up and down the court. Brunson ended up getting his fourth foul in the second quarter. The Pacers were targeting him on every possession. And they went up by 20. The Knicks closed the half on an 8-2 run to put them down 58 to 45 at halftime.
That
And
was a
then,
big that was a big key part of the game to
mm,
take it from 20 to 15, I
and
thought.
even to start the third quarter, it wasn't looking good for the Knicks. They had like 7 turnovers in a 9 minute stretch at the end of the
Mhm.
second and the start of the third. But then I think the game turned because Indiana was playing really sloppy basketball. Aaron Neesmith went back to the locker room with an ankle injury. And you saw
Mhm.
the Knicks gain some confidence there. They gained some real confidence. And Miles McBride really energized the New York Knicks. They went on a 7-2 run to end the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter was the Carl Anthony Towns show. I think How many points did he have in the fourth quarter? I think he had 20 points in the fourth. He
He
was
he was terrific. You
he
know,
was
he
going
made his
crazy.
he made his 3-point shots. He has such an awkward game when he starts to go to the basket. You know, he looks like a Clydesdale horse, you know, from the Budweiser wagon, you know, I mean, coming down there, you know, he runs not a smooth runner at all. You know, but geez, I mean, it was a big time win. But I think, you know, Tibbs today played 9 players,
Hmm.
uh, you know,
He did. He went
and
to
yeah,
all
he went to
double digits in minutes for Dillon Wright, Landry Shamet, Miles McBride, and Josh Hart coming off the bench. But
yeah,
a lot of that was forced by Jalen Brunson having his fifth foul with 7 minutes left to go in the
yeah.
game. And he got benched for about a 5 minute stretch there in the fourth quarter where the Knicks actually made their comeback. What were your
Yes.
thoughts on having Jalen Brunson on the bench and when would be the right time to bring him back on the court with just one
Well,
foul?
yeah, I mean, with one foul to go is, you know, my whole thing is they had a lead. As long as you have your lead and you don't lose it, keep them out of the game because I this game easily could have gone to overtime. Um, and plus, when he was going to be on defense, he's not going to guard anyone anyway, but they're going to go after him. And he hasn't done a good. I thought his fifth foul was a terrible call. I thought it was an offensive foul. But so I think Tibbs did the right thing. I could see, you know, it's so funny to watch Rich Brunson, Jalen's dad. He always wants to put him in, and Tibbs is doing the right thing. But it's kind of comical for me knowing everyone involved to watch that dynamic going on. But I think he absolutely did the right thing. And, you know, and it was good to see their bench guys, even though they don't get much time, contribute like that. McBride is a great athlete, and they need his athleticism in this game. Campaign we saw didn't even see the court, only in warm-ups, which was the right thing to do.
Absolutely. With Jalen Brunson missing a significant stretch of this game, usually he plays damn near the whole game. Tonight he played just 30 minutes.
Hmm.
Obviously, the Pacers love to pick on him when he's on defense. Without him out there on the court, their offense kind of ground to a halt in that fourth quarter. What did you see from Indiana on the offensive side of the basketball that they just couldn't get anything going?
Yeah, you know what? They couldn't get out in the running game, so that you know now they had to play half court basketball, and their pick and rolls weren't that effective. And I think Halliburton got caught in between, and they did a good job of pretty much keeping. The only guy I thought that they don't have an answer for is Siakam, like we talked about last night. You know, Josh Hart's too small to play on him, you know, and Towns can't guard him. You know, they started out the third quarter with their starting lineup on the floor. They went right at Siakam, and you know, right away, Cat got couldn't handle him. He scored a quick bucket or two. I think that's the big thing is they ended up basically winning the game with a small lineup with Cat in there and 4 other players, whoever they were, McBride and 3 others.
Yeah, I think for Siakam as well, because the Pacers had such a hot start and they were really running and so on and so forth. It's different to game two where he was getting a lot of intentional touches to start this game, where he can really find his rhythm and settle into, him scoring the basketball as the focal point of the offense. Whereas tonight it's kind of like they went to him too late on that he didn't have the rhythm going. He finished with 17 points on 50% shooting. But he didn't have that. When you've got some early buckets as a player like Pascal Siakam, who's not known as a prolific 3-point shooter, but when you get some early ones to go, all right, cool, now I'm going to step behind the line, I'm going to shoot a few
Hmm.
threes, so on and so forth. But it felt like he didn't build up that momentum from early on.
And sometimes coaching decisions, last game Tony Bradley came out of mothballs, played pretty well. Tonight, totally ineffective. Totally ineffective. So I think you'll see him probably not play, and they'll probably go back to the guy they were playing
Thomas
before.
Bryant didn't get
Bryant
any
probably,
time on the court tonight.
yeah. So I think they'll probably flip back, and try to do that. They lost to Cleveland game 3 at home after winning twice in Cleveland. Carlisle will get, not that he need to get their attention, he had it, but they know they're in a series now. Uh, and if the Knicks can ever tie this up, game
Oh
five
man.
becomes the most important game in the series, as I always say.
Yep. Yeah, a player who's really disappointed me, and actually, I was kind of shocked because during the broadcast, I heard Reggie Miller say that Benedict Mathurin has been awful. And for once, I have to agree with the commentary of Mr. Reggie Miller because in a game where, your offense is kind of wearing down in the fourth quarter, you're not getting things to go. A player like him coming off the bench, who's supposed to be your bucket getter coming off the bench, the sixth man, because we know he ain't trying to pass the ball. And he's a player I've spoken to him, he has supreme confidence in his abilities, missed the playoffs last year with injuries. But throughout this series, and to be honest, the whole playoff so far, he's not had the effect that I've been looking for him to have and be that burst of scoring coming off the bench. Tonight, in 9 minutes to play, he had 2 points.
The MO, the biggest thing is I think I've coached over 125, 30 playoff games, but the biggest thing you go in the playoffs as a coach, who do you trust out there? Not who's your best athletes, who's your best shoot. Who do you trust that they're going to make the right play under pressure? Because these games are full of pressure. And I don't think Rick trusts them not for the shots he might take. He loves how hard he plays. He loves how tough he is, but he also knows that he might also commit a flagrant foul, get a technical foul, do something, or punch a guy in the chest like he did. He might do something, So I think the trust is not 100% there. He
What did
trusts
you?
Shepard more than him, in
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. What did you make of the impact of Neesmith going out of the game with his ankle
Huge,
injury? Because
absolutely
it feels like
huge.
the Pacers were deflated after that.
Yeah, absolutely huge. I thought it was a serious injury. I didn't expect him to come back. Uh, but the kid is so darn tough and stuff. And then, it just, and he committed that foul on Hart late in the game, but going for the rebound. But he's one of those guys. I just love him because he's so damn tough, and he could shoot the ball, and he's their best defensive player, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So the series is now 2 games to 1. What
Yep.
adjustments are you looking for the Indiana Pacers to make ahead of game number 4?
I think to make sure they get good shots every time down, and they got to make sure that every player has one thing that you want to take away. Karl Anthony Towns, we never want him to be able to get both feet set and take an outside shot. We want to crowd him, make him put it on the floor, because then he gets a little out of control and we can help. But I'm not letting him get what we call warm-up threes. And he had a couple of them, bang, bang. That's 6 points right then and there in that fourth quarter. And when he started making them, and he was taking deep ones, you just can't let him. You can't let that happen. So I think that's one of the big things. And then, I think, McBride, he's a guy that, they have to make sure when he comes in the game that we guard him just like we're worried about focusing in on Brunson. We take his game away because I think he's maybe when Brunson comes out, he's their best perimeter guy to create off the dribble.
Absolutely. One thing that the Pacers have done a really good job of, and it sounds stupid to say that this is the one thing they've done a really good job of, but they have been making their shots all playoff long. It feels like they've not really had nights where the ball has not been, going through the hoop. Tonight they were
Tonight
five of
was
25
I was
from
just going to
downtown.
say tonight was the night. Yeah. And when you play at home and you don't shoot well, that's a shock to you, so that, I expect them to shoot well. I expect them to shoot well, play well. I think they're going to be a tough team to beat on, basically on Tuesday night. I really do. I think it's going to be a very tough game for the Knicks. But,
They've
that's what I
shot
love.
36% or better from behind the arc in every one of their wins. Their two losses, they shot 32% against the Bucks in game 3, and they shot 30% in game 3 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it feels like game 3s for them are just, for whatever reason, off
Isn't that
shooting
funny?
nights. And
Isn't
yeah,
that, that's crazy how that is. But, I think, against the Bucks, they were up 2-0. Cleveland, they were up 2-0. Tonight, they're up 2-0. There's that thing about it, Mo, that, you talked about it last night, the psychology of the human spirit, right? And that I think there is a tendency, no matter how many times you warn players, don't get comfortable. And I told you the biggest thing I was worried about with this big weekend in Indianapolis, sports weekend, was I was worried about them having so many people tell them how great they were for 2 days.
mm,
And I think not, that they came with an effort, but that wasn't their best.
Absolutely. Combining for 5 3-pointers in an NBA game in 2025 is always going to be a recipe for
Yeah,
disaster. Um,
yeah.
but speaking of people patting you on the back and telling you how amazing you are, the Minnesota Timberwolves have been at home for the last 48 hours hearing, I think they'll be getting a lot of love from their hometown fans, especially the way in which they won game three. But game four is tonight. Do you think that is it tonight?
Yes.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
not
it
yet.
is.
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Well, it is
Technically,
technically for me, it is, but
yeah,
tomorrow
for
for
you,
you.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I was
Well,
just
for
looking at
your
the
people,
calendar.
you were talking to your
Yeah,
audience.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you guys listen
Yeah.
to this, it's going to be tonight.
Yeah.
Do you think that they can tie the series, or are OKC going to make the necessary adjustments?
It's absolutely a must because OKC, I think, is the very best adjustment team in the NBA. Mark Daigneault is the best halftime adjustment guy. He makes moves that change the game. That's why they're the best third quarter team. And I guarantee you, he got their attention uh, today in their film session. He's got great guys, high character guys, and they're going to be ready. Now, if those guys come out and play the way they did yesterday, Minnesota, they were men out there. They were
Mhm.
physical, they were tough, and and that crowd will be behind them. Uh, I'm hoping for a Minnesota W because I want to see this thing go to 6 or 7 despite your weekend plans. I really don't care.
They've already been
Okay.
ruined.
I
No,
don't care.
no.
I don't care, Mo. This is about the NBA. This is about 2K25. This is your profession, okay?
Should I tell you what? I was so annoyed that Josh Hart, that the Knicks lost the game because Josh Hart did an interview where he said he spent his day off yesterday playing a certain game on his PlayStation that wasn't NBA 2K25. And I wanted to start the show with this is what happens when you're playing anything other than 2K25. But Josh Hart got benched, so I could say that.
Was he playing football game or
No, it was a different sport. It was a baseball game, but we're not going to talk about that other than the
really?
company that makes it.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
How
I don't
about
know
that?
why anyone would want to do that when 2K25 exists. You can live out your NBA dreams on there. But one thing I heard
He might
yesterday.
not be in the game. He might not. He might.
One thing I heard yesterday was Jeff Teague talking about the Knicks, and he said the Knicks are losing, and this was before tonight's game, obviously. He said the Knicks are losing because of the 24-second shot clock. 17 seconds of that is just Jalen Brunson dribbling the basketball. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, not really, because the defensive pressure from the Pacers gives them only 14 to 17 seconds really to work with by the time they get past the halfway line. But there is some truth to that because the run the Knicks made tonight was largely with Jalen Brunson off the court, and the ball was
Sure.
moving a lot better with. I'm not saying that Miles McBride is better than Jalen Brunson. Obviously, that would be insane. But the offense as a whole was less focused on one guy.
And that happened on Friday night,
Hmm.
right? Right. Friday night, they really did well when he was at a game also, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so, uh, so I think that's one of the things is that I think sometimes when your best player is out, defensive on the other team, they tend to relax a little bit. Jeff Teague, good observation, a little bit of jealousy. We never had to worry about Jeff Teague ever over dribbling the basketball when he was in the league.
I, I
So
I like the irony of it though,
no,
because no, no,
Jeff's got a
not for
better
Jeff Teague.
he's got a better podcast than he did as a player, as a
That's
game,
a fact.
as a game. Yeah,
Because I think he has outside of the Hoop Genius podcast, I think he has the best podcast
he's got a
except
nice little
for us.
podcast. Yeah,
But he was never the best player in the league. But
but
um, but the irony of what he said was that Jalen Brunson left the Mavericks because he didn't like standing around watching Luka Doncic dribble the air out of basketball, and now he's come to New York and became the one thing that he didn't like in Dallas. So
he became Luca Northeast. Yeah, no, but he's the guy's all pro. He's all pro, and and he's had Mr. Clutch time in the NBA, and he maximizes his talent. But I think that's more a creation of their style of play than anything else. I hate to say this, they don't run a whole lot of things.
they
You
did at
know,
the start of this game. They were running more than what I usually see from them, and they were
yeah.
making a point to kind of have some structured offense going on.
See, and the problem when I told you I didn't like the starting lineup that they went with, mainly because they never play those two bigs together too often, so they can't run offense too
Mm.
much. They don't have an offense. They only use one post player in their offense. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, but
And
I
I
saw
just,
like Bridges was getting post up touches to start this game, and even though they don't play long stretches together, the minutes that double bigs play have been their most productive minutes statistically through the playoffs
oh
so
no,
far.
statistically, but I thought Ye could have done that off the bench. And also, I think, you made the point. I mean, if that guy's in the game, we're going to foul him every time he
Mitchell
gets the
Robinson, yeah,
ball.
well, the Pacers
Yeah, I
didn't get the
mean,
memo, so hopefully they're
no,
listening to the show. But
yeah, they might tonight. Yeah.
they need to do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast. Coach Sir, any other thoughts that you have before we get out of here?
Well, on this one, I think the biggest thing for your listeners to grasp is that in these 7 game series, it is absolutely incredible how each game is a game within by itself. No matter what happened to previous games, what you can't worry about what's going to happen. That it's a standalone thing. It's a one of one, and that's what makes this the NBA so incredible because you just can't predict what's going to happen. And tomorrow, I think we're going to see it with Minnesota. I flip a coin tonight. I've coached 4,000 games in the NBA. I have no idea what the hell's going to happen. I have no idea who's going to win. Uh, so I don't know. But I think it's great when you get down to this. You know, they talked about load management and stuff like that for years. I'll tell you what, I've said it last year and I say it again now. There's no load management in the playoffs, is there?
Nope.
The only time a guy is out is he's hurt, if he
Hmm.
gets hurt. Seriously, you know, load management happened, you know, when you're trying to get through 82. Playoffs, no one misses games. Zero.
So sorry,
Not,
I'm just having flashbacks. I thought BJ was back on the show with the talk of load management.
no, I mean, PJ, who's he? Oh, be who? Be who? No, no, it is.
Yeah, no,
But
I've not heard about
in
load
the
management
playoff,
since
in the
the regular
playoffs,
season ended. That's why I'm
no,
thinking,
and you won't in the playoffs. There is no such thing.
because
No
everyone wants to
one,
win. If only it was
no
like that
one,
all year long.
no analytics people are worried about. Oh, let's get them rest for the next game. None of that. It's about winning now, and that's what I love about the playoffs. So tomorrow
Absolutely.
night we'll be treated to another good one.
Have you got a prediction for tomorrow night? You're going with OKC?
No, I think they'll make great adjustments, but I'm
Hmm.
hoping Minnesota wins because I'd like to see. I love these games to keep going.
Hmm.
I
Let
feel terrible because I know it's screwing up your social life, but really, this is about me and the NBA, not about your social life. You're a dedicated professional.
I
So
am. I am indeed. We have over
get your
700
social
episodes
life
to
together.
prove that.
Get your social life together in July. Okay. Not,
That's a long
not
time
me.
away. It's a long time away. This phone won't stop ringing, coach. This phone won't stop ringing. But what I do love about the playoffs is this might be one of the most unpredictable playoffs that I've ever
Yeah.
watched in the history of the NBA. Like in previous years, I've kind of been able to pick who's winning what and so on and so forth. Whereas this year, man, who knows?
And the most physical since the 90s.
Yeah, but, well, 2000s, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that run in the 2010s and I guess the last 10 years, 10 to 15 years, it's been a
Yeah.
little.
This is good basketball. Fans like it. And then the
Mhm.
ratings are off the charts. So that's what you judge by when people want to watch it. Even though we've had several blowouts,
Yeah,
they're
well, not
coming
only
back for
that,
the next
it's
game.
not only unpredictable, it's also you can't stop watching when a team's up 20. Because if you turned off the TV when the
Great
Pacers
point.
were up 20 today, you'd be so confused when you wake up and check the score.
Yeah, I even with a couple of seconds left, I said, I'm not walking away till the buzzer sounds.
Exactly. Down by six with 10 seconds left.
Hanging in
We've
there.
seen it. We've seen it happen before. But that's another great episode. Appreciate you as always, coach. And
We'll see.
looking forward to tomorrow. Let's go
We'll
get
see
it.
you.
Another week of
We'll
the
see
Hoop
you
Genius
tomorrow night.
podcast. Yes, sir. In the
All right.
meantime, subscribe to the show, YouTube, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from, and get buckets.